Hello, I am Undead Matt. Oh, that is funny. Welcome to my special Halloween episode. In honor of one of the greats joining my realm, I bring you the worst to the best Nightmare on Elm Street. This is where I go over the entire career of Frederick Rutherford Krueger and tell you my favorites, from the worst piece of goblin trash to the tastiest virgin soul. Let's begin, shall we? Number 9, Freddys Dead, the final nightmare. So yeah, of course I'd start with this one. This movie is a piece of shit. It's the only painful Nightmare on Elm Street movie, for me at least. It's hard to watch, it's goofy. I mean, it's so bad, Wes Craven reportedly used a lot of his own money to finance the next movie, so this wouldn't be the end of Freddy Krueger. Like, this has got all the goofiest moments. Like, anyone that makes fun of the series for how goofy it got, it usually comes from this movie. This one's got the power glove, Freddy acting like the Wicked Witch of the West, the scratching of the nails on the chalkboard. Like, this has just got weird. The overall plot is there's only one kid left in Springwood where all these movies take place, and I'm not sure how this kid survived because he's kind of an asshole. So Freddy basically tricks him in a way of going out into the world and bringing kids back so he can kill more. And that's the plot, basically. It also involves showing a lot of Freddy's past, which is one of the big gimmicks. Like, he had a family and a daughter. This movie's just full of gimmicks, too. Like, it's the end of Freddy. It's got the 3D gimmick. It's got terrible 90s CGI. Like, everything about this is really bad. And even within the series, it stopped doing the given pattern, which I'll talk about later, and just was obviously made to cash in on the last little bit of Freddy they could. And hey, look, it's got the poor man Seth Green, Breckin Meyer, or as I like to think of him, Robot Chicken's Superman.
Superman!
Number 8, Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. So I don't know if it has a fan name or an official name, but this is the end of the inner series trilogy of 3, 4, and 5. And what I mean is those 3 movies have a lot of connected continuity and a lot of the same feel. This one does change up that feel a little bit by being a little bit more grim and kind of gothic, but it does follow the same pattern of a character from the previous movie is in this movie, and you learn a little bit more about Freddy. In this one, you learn that Freddy's mom is the good dream demon. Yes, this is a really weird movie. The plot is Alice from the previous movie is now pregnant, and since the baby and her share a symbiotic relationship, Freddy can force her into dreams even though she's awake. And it's really weird. It could have done well, but it had these things where the dreams become more like skits. Like, we're going to have Chef Freddy, and we're going to have Super Freddy. And yes, Super Freddy is in this movie. So it really had this weird combination of someone had this cool dark idea, and someone wanted the funny, goofy Freddy, and they tried to mash them together, and it just did not work at all. And that's why this movie fails. Number 7, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. So this will be my first controversial pick, I believe, because a lot of people really like this movie, and it's just okay for me. And to be honest, it's actually really, really close with my next pick. Like, they're really, really head-to-head. If I were to even do this list again next week, they may even be switched. Like, they're that close. And so this one's, like I said, it's the beginning of that trilogy I talked about, and it sets in line the pattern of a survivor from a previous movie comes in and is in this movie, and you learn more about Freddy's past. This one, you learn Freddy's mom was a nun that worked in an insane asylum and was raped by a bunch of inmates, giving Freddy the nickname Son of 100 Maniacs. Classy. So the basic plot of this is Nancy, the survivor from the first movie, comes into this asylum called Weston Hills to help these kids that are having these nightmares. And she tells them about Freddy, and it basically does that. So that's the basic plot. It introduces the idea of controlling your dreams and kind of having powers in your dreams, which is good on the surface, but poor in execution. There's one kid that says he's a wizard, and all he has is a cloak and shoots lightning. And one girl that says she's beautiful and bad, but all she's got is a switchblade. And, tell her, Tom Hardy.
Mustn't be afraid to dream a little bigger, darling.
So this is the movie that also introduces Hypnosil, the anti-dream pill. So this one has a lot of staples, Weston Hills, the sleep pills. It really set a lot in motion that you see through a lot of the other movies, which is good. But the dream powers were just being weak, and this also introduces Freddy really doing the one-liners. Like, he sort of said things in the previous movies, but this is like, oh, he's got to say something goofy at the end. And it's kind of starts being lame at that point. And another thing of note is this stars Larry Fishburne, not Lawrence Fishburne, Larry Fishburne. Wait a minute, if Morpheus is in Nightmare on Elm Street, does that mean Freddy's a rogue program from the Matrix? Whoa. Number 6, Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. So like I said, this one's very close to the previous movie, and they're very neck and neck. They have very similar tones and feels to them. This one just kind of edges it out just a little bit. So like I said, it follows the pattern. So this one, the returning character is Kristen, and you actually get 2 more returning characters, Kincaid, and I can't remember the other kid's name. And you learn more about Freddy. This one you learn that he absorbs the souls of the people he kills, and if you've seen the images of people's faces on Freddy's chest, that comes from this movie. The basic plot is the 3 survivors from the previous movie are now just kind of back in school, kind of trying to have a normal life. But Kristen, whose power in dreams was to bring people into her dreams, is looking for Freddy. He feels he's not really dead, and, well, he's not. And it kind of goes from there. All her friends start dying, and she actually dies and passes her power on to Alice, who we see in part 5. The really cool part about this movie is all the dreams are based on the people's fears and kind of their personalities, and they got a very cool tone to them that is kind of playing off your fears, and it's really awesome. And to be honest, the reason I really like this one better than the last movie is it does feature my favorite 80s song. Number 5, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddys Revenge. So this one has a joking title called Nightmare on Elm Street 2, The Gay One. And this one does have some definite gay undertones in it. But I'm not going to talk too much about that. The Cinema Snob already did a much better video about that, so go check that out. The plot of this one is a family moves into Nancy's house from the first movie, and the teenage son Jesse starts having nightmares about Freddy, and Freddy actually starts possessing his body and using him to kill people. And that's a really cool idea. And another cool thing that's in this movie is only one person dreams about Freddy or really knows who Freddy is, and that's Jesse. And you just see Freddy driving him crazy the entire movie, and it's got some cool effects. It's got a good feel to it. It's just sad this one didn't do very good in theaters, so they obviously shifted tones for the following movies, and this one's actually rarely brought up again. But if you haven't seen it, go check it out. This is actually a really solid entry in the series.
My children now.
Number 4, A Nightmare on Elm Street Remake. Yes, the remake is on this list, and yes, it is this high on the list. I love this remake, and I love Jackie Earle Haley as Freddy. He is so creepy and honestly scary. He's such a good fit for a dark, really just violent Freddy. The basic plot of this movie follows that of the first movie, but makes solid changes that it not only makes sense, but make it interesting for Nightmare on Elm Street fans, so you're not just reliving the same thing. And another thing this movie does really, really well that I love is they make everyone look really tired. And all the previous movies are like, oh, I've been up for days, da da da. This one, they're greasy, their hair is bad, they just look fucking tired. And I love how Freddy plays into that, and that they even bring in the idea of insomniac dreams where your mind just shuts down when you're so tired, and he's just driving them crazy, and this is scary and dark. If you haven't seen this just because it's a remake, give it a chance. And another thing to note that I like is it's got Rooney Mara in it, who you might know as the girl with the dragon tattoo.
Number 3, Freddy versus Jason.
Now we're talking. This is probably one of the best versus movies of all time. They did such a good job making this neither a Nightmare on Elm Street movie or a Friday the 13th movie, but a perfect combination of both of them. Obviously, I'm going to talk more about the Nightmare side of this. And even that's amazing. Like, they kind of made this a sequel to a fake Nightmare on Elm Street movie where they were kind of shipping any kids that knew about Freddy off to Weston Hills and made them take Hypnosil. And at the time, friends of mine that knew I was a Nightmare fan were like, which movie is that based off of? And it's like, it's not, but it's awesome anyways. I wish it was a movie. So I haven't talked a lot about Robert Englund's performances in some of these. And this is the pinnacle of him being Freddy. Like, this is Freddy's greatest hits. He's scary. He is funny. He's, fast. He's just great in this movie. And he really just hits the nail on the head being Freddy. Like, this is the Freddy. There is something weird I got to talk about with this, and that there's all these dollar store versions of good actors in this movie. Like, check this out. We got a poor man's Jason Mewes, a poor man's Brittany Murphy, and even a poor man's Beyonce.
Number 2, Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
So for those of you playing the home game, you obviously know I got 2 movies left. And like 3 and 4, these 2 are just right next to each other, just neck and neck. I love them both so much, but I think this one really holds a number 2 spot. And this movie is Wes Craven's way to end Freddy. He saw Freddys Dead and is like, nope, we're doing this instead. And he comes back and directs this, writes this, and makes another amazing movie. And you see things from his past, and you even see things from Wes Craven's future of kind of how he's thinking of slasher movies and making Scream. Because the plot is that Freddy is this kind of being in the real world. He's not really Freddy, but he's taken the form of Freddy because of our fear of the movies. And it's really meta and interesting that way. And you got Robert Englund playing himself, you got Wes Craven playing himself, and you got Heather Langenkamp playing herself. And it's just kind of really cool and weird that it's part of our real world, but it's not. And it's a movie about a movie, and it's amazing. And I gotta say, this is Freddy at his scariest. I know Freddy vs. Jason, I said that's the greatest hits of Freddy, but this is Freddy being scary. Like, really, really scary. And I also have to mention the child actor in this is just spot on. Usually child actors are annoying, but this one is great, and this movie is just so solid. I love this movie.
Miss me? Number 1, A Nightmare on Elm Street.
So of course, I gotta go with the original. It changed the way horror movies are, it changed slasher movies. It is a classic, iconic horror movie. Like, this is Wes Craven seeing slasher movies in the 70s and putting his own twist on it. The effects are great, the atmosphere is amazingly dark and creepy, and even as it gets older, because it's so grainy and dark, it gets even creepier as it gets older. I mean, I could just go on for hours about how great this movie is. It's so, so good. And of course, I have to mention baby Johnny Depp is in this movie. Interesting note is Johnny Depp got this job because Wes Craven's daughter thought he was cute, and he was like, well, if she thinks he's cute, other girls will think he's cute, and they'll come see my movie. And it seemed to work out because I think Johnny Depp's done some other movies. I've seen him around, I think. Wasn't that fun? I love watching teens die, especially in their sleep. Join me again next year when I arise from the grave. Happy Halloween. And insert Halloween pun here! What?